so many of the shops that we know of don't have the proper equipment to complete a repair, and then it calls into question whether or not the repair is completed properly. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the airing of grievances. My name is Eric Reamer, and as you can see, Rob is not here for the second week in a row, but never fear. We have a fantastic guest. I'll introduce you to him. Some of you already know him, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. But first, a couple of things by way of just gratitude. The last 3 weeks, we have been talking about the topic of one insurer, in this particular case, it's Liberty Mutual, that has been abandoning vehicles all over the country. In last week's video, if you didn't see it, Repair Driven News cited 45 different incidents. Add the two of ours on top of that, and I know that those are just the ones that got caught in the report. There are probably many, many more. But you guys have helped significantly by sharing those videos. And if you haven't seen them, go take a look at those. They're in the playlist called The Airing of Grievances on this channel. And I'll even put the link to that right below here. But you guys are sharing this video, you're triggering comments and making comments, and you're triggering the YouTube algorithm in a good way. Usually the word trigger these days means something bad, but this is actually good because we're seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more views than normal on this channel, and that means this message is getting out, and we are so thankful for you. So if you haven't done it yet, click the subscribe button, hit the notify bell. That tells you that when we put new content out, you're going to be notified for it. And if you just check your calendar or your watch, it'll probably say something like Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. in the Mountain Standard Time. That's how you know that we're working on your behalf. We can go one step further, though. There's some really cool things that you could do that also help the algorithm. And the number one thing it is, click that thumbs up button. That thumbs up button really does help. And again, these things are free and it doesn't affect you or the way that you interact with YouTube, but it certainly affects us and it gives us the opportunity to reach more people. And today we have a fantastic guest, but before we actually get started, I'll tell you his name and then I'll come back and introduce him. His name is Danny Gredinberg. There he is. And Danny, you know how we do around here. We like to
Yeah.
raise a glass and we like to say, Happy Saturday.
Cheers. Happy Saturday to you.
Absolutely. And folks, happy Saturday to you as well. We know that you take time out of your day to join us for ours, and we're so grateful for it. And I say that on behalf of Rob Grieve as well. He is still out in Texas going through a whole bunch of meetings and whatnot. He will be back, Lord willing, knocking on wood, next Saturday morning. But we've got Danny with us today. And Danny, you are the site administrator for a service called DEG. What does DEG stand for?
Well, first off, glad to be here and thank you, Eric, for having us
Of course.
be with you this weekend. So the DEG Database Enhancement Gateway, it's an absolute free industry resource available to the collision repairers and end users of estimating products out there. And again, with the support of Nylund's Collision, helping this free resource maintain that. Again, we can't thank you guys enough, but it's just out there to help really get the accuracy of information in the databases. So that way, if you're an insurance company, if you're an estimator at a body shop collision center, and you're getting a generated report, that talks about the damage to your vehicle, you want that information to be, accurate from the manufacturer. You want that labor that they are suggesting in that database to be accurate and reflective of the necessary operations, and that that the whoever's doing the repair can make sure they document the necessary steps to the vehicle. So the estimating systems, again, they get information from the manufacturers, and then they house that. And again, through the DEG, if there's a shop that or end user that notices an issue, the labor may not be correct, or maybe it's not enough time to perform that task, or there's a clarification or possible disagreement of interpretation of what's necessary in that estimating system. Again, they can submit an inquiry through this resource. And then again, with a non-biased opinion, we work directly with the estimating systems to get a resolution and publish that for the public to see that. So
Gotcha.
that's in a nutshell the DEG, the Database Enhancement Gateway.
I got to be honest, some of our viewers may find this a little bit comedic. Um, for years, I thought DEG was your initials. And I thought, because it's Danny Gredinberg, right? And I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe your name's Edward. I don't know. But I literally thought that this was your software, and that you created it, and you named it after yourself. Um, so I have been educated. Now, I was educated before today, just
Yeah.
so everybody knows. But Danny, you're also a trainer for a mutual friend of ours company called Collision Advice.
Yeah.
Tell us what you're doing in partnership with Mike Anderson out there at Collision Advice.
Again, working with the industry partners out there, and the association and collision advice has been my latest, endeavor as well. So I facilitate and perform training classes for shops all over the country for manufacturers. So on behalf of Nissan, Porsche cars, North America, and also teaching the collision advice estimating class, which we do, quite often. I'm always teaching these classes, and really it's to help educate the repairs out there, the estimators, to make them more aware of the manufacturer requirements of required operations to complete that safe and proper repair, and where to find that information. Because again, knowing that Nylund's Collision specializes in just a very few select cars. I mean, it's very rare that you'll see other types of brands other than Lexus, Toyota, some Subarus in your shop, right?
Right.
And Lucid, you guys are certified for for Toyota, Lexus, and Lucid. But again, when to find that information, it's pretty cumbersome, and we just help those repairs out there understand that information exists, where to find it, and also how to document your repair plan, or we call it your evidence package of all the required steps on that vehicle, and really to make that customer whole with the safe and proper repair at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that you say evidence package, because sometimes it feels a little litigious as repairers try to submit their estimates, and then get a little pushback sometimes on behalf of the insurers, who
Mhm.
they're doing their job trying to minimize uh, their outflow of money. And so finding the right repair, and where to find the right repair procedures and parts and all of those things. You, Mike, and the whole team over at Collision Advice, doing great work. And I know that I can stand with Rob sitting right behind me saying that we're grateful.
I appreciate it, and we're grateful to have shops that really represent the consumer and really perform the safe and proper repair that we can be a part of, and help get that education to not only just you, but to the industry that really needs it. And at the end of the day, I mean, you probably say the first thing: I can't fix every car out there, but if we have a network of shops that can do that, and that's the consumer focus oriented shops that really look out for the consumer's best interest. I mean, those are the ones that we rely on, and the consumers who we want to really protect and make sure that we take care of them with a complete honest repair, or at least guide them in the right direction.
Yeah, wouldn't that be refreshing if all the shops were complete and honest in their repair procedures? Um, Keep up the good fight, man. Keep doing what you're doing. We are
I
grateful.
appreciate that.
So today, Danny, because Rob is away, he asked me to reach out to you, and I want to talk to you about something that we talk about often on this channel, but perhaps not often enough. And that is, what questions should we ask? What things should we, the driving public, the consumers out there, this show, and if you're just visiting us for the very first time on the airing of grievances, this series with its now 195 different episodes is 100% consumer focused. Yes, we have repairers who watch this and comment with us. And on the premiere of every video, you can chime in with both Rob and me on Saturday mornings, and you can chat live using the YouTube app on your phone or on your computer. We're happy to chat with you live, or you can chat delayed if you catch it in a later time throughout the week, or weeks or months later, years later now. We've got 3 years under our belt. Um, but Danny, the question is, what do we ask? What do we look for when trying to find a shop that will do the correct repair?
So you're telling me that I can't just pull up to any body shop on the side of the building and just say, "Fix my car"? I mean, is that something that's happened? There's a pandemic out there of finding the right shop.
You're the expert, so I'm not telling you anything. Uh,
Okay.
but yes, yeah, that's exactly what we're proposing, is that you've got to know who you go to. We say it all every single week. You need to know who to trust. And I know that you have a list of questions or things to look for when it comes to uh, what shops we engage with, because and this is our take on it, not necessarily Danny's or Collision Advices or anything like that, but our take here at the airing of grievances and Nylund's Collision Center is, if you go to the shop that your insurer says or recommends, right, that says these are our partners, and you can choose any one of them. Sometimes they use the word preferred shops. That's your first and quite possibly most expensive mistake. And so, from that perspective, and Danny, of course, knows our perspective. Danny, there's got to be some way to filter through the chaff.
I think the number one priority shouldn't be, I mean, it shouldn't be about the cost of repair. The number one priority, that you need to go into it when you're finding a facility to fix your, um, possibly your, either first these days or even your second biggest investment,
Yeah.
aside from your house or I'm sorry, from your wife and kids, your significant other kids. But yeah, I mean, you need to start focusing on who's capable of working on this car in the first place. I mean, I mean, when you get into your piece of technology these days, and this is no longer just a car, just the four wheels and an engine. I mean, it's much greater than that. So the questions you need to start asking are finding a place that can even capably work on your car, from the ins and outs, and not just, solely make that paint, you know, like it was, because the paint part is almost, the very last step, and almost the
Don't say it. Don't
a
say it.
step.
Don't
No,
say it's easy.
it's a standardized step that it needs to be, done, according to the manufacturer procedure, but it still needs to be done in a way, where you have other things like sensors and radars and, electronics in that vehicle that also need to be accounted for in the most complex manner too.
Yeah.
So really, you need to start, looking for those. Do you see other types of cars in that parking lot or within that building that represent similar type of, design of your car, right? I mean, do you see newer cars in that body shop? Do you see, you know, do you see the building capable of even housing this type of vehicle for, like, EV cars, or these advanced, can they store the vehicle correctly, based on security? These are all things that you want to take a look and, make sure that you're putting your trust into that shop, from the first visual perspective. I mean,
Yeah. You
the book
you
cover tells a lot, from going into it.
yeah, you raise a couple of different questions, and you, or at least you address these topics. And one thing that we've probably never really talked about on this channel yet is your first impression as you drive up. Now, we've talked a little bit about your first impression when you drive up. Is the building clean? And when you go into the showroom or the office, if you will, do they look prepared to handle you and your case? Um, but you talk about the security of it, and, we at here at Nylund's, we have, big fence all the way around the entire property that secures, the vehicles, and, there are, at any given time, a lot of valuable vehicles on our lot. And you also mentioned seeing cars that are of similar like, model, make, even year to the one that you want repaired. And I think both of those are really good pieces of advice for us because um, all too often, you go to what does Rob call it? Bubba's Backyard Barbecue and Body Shop. You might see a few beaters to keep the alliteration going, and you might want to make a beeline out of there if that's not really what you're into.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's different categories of shops. There's shops that restore cars, or there's shops that just really just get them back on the road, right? And they're just not looking at the most proper methods out there, but you can kind of get a good jibe of what's going to happen to your car if you don't see other similar types of vehicles in that facility as a first place. So again, the first impression tells a lot. But really, let's get into the questions, that, once you get to someone, whether that be a phone call or actual in person,
Yeah.
is gonna start, things about asking them, "Are you capable of working on my car?" Just being flat out. I mean, I would
What
just
do you
ask,
mean? What do you mean by that?
do you have the equipment? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the training, the expertise to work on my vehicle? I mean, have you gone through recent, training with this car, right? I'm aware that, that my car has sensors and radars and, technology. Are you able to follow the manufacturer's, procedures and guidelines and requirements for that sake, fix my car correctly? And I think that's an honest question to be able to, really ask that shop
Yeah.
up front. So that way and you're not really, I don't think you're going to be, offending anyone. I think it's really just more to establish that trust front, because again, that up front, when you say, are you going to be able to, look out for my best interest, that's going to put me at ease, honestly.
Yeah, and interesting that you say that, and I love the way that you word it, because when asking that question, you asked a couple of different questions. Are you able? And you mentioned the equipment, and then do you have the equipment necessary to do it? But you also talked about the training, and in many cases, and I just want to kind of segue this to, we bang the drum for OEM certification, we bang the drum for OEM parts, and we bang the drum for OEM procedures. And for those of you who are not necessarily in the industry, OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer. They're the people who designed, and then made your car. And so, how do you feel about the need for OEM certification in the process of hunting for a shop?
Um, I couldn't be a more bigger proponent for OEM certification out there, because again, with the information that that we're training on these days, and that the information that we're being able to share with the repairers out there, I mean, I can tell you there was a night and day difference from someone taking the class before and then after, because what they thought they knew, they actually never knew existed.
Yeah,
And my gosh, I think it's an eye opener to the amount of requirements that a manufacturer needs on their vehicles after a collision or any incident, or even a repair for that matter. Because again, we're dealing with complex systems, more than just repainting the car. It's actually the electronics, the batteries requirements, right? You're dealing with high voltage systems. You don't want to be you don't want your car to be, part of a process where it electrocuted a technician either.
right.
So, you want to make sure that you're asking these things and upfront, and just really establish that comfort level that you can, now, you know, you know that that they got you, that they're gonna do these things right by you. Now there's more things to consider, right? It's gonna be along the lines of, do you work with my insurance company, right? These are all things, but that shouldn't be your primary focus. Again, that should be more like, are you able to communicate with them, or do I need to be involved in that process with you along the way?
Yeah, yeah, and that's a clarifying question, right? If you ask, "Do you work with them?" Almost everybody's gonna answer yes. But, "Will you help me through the process?" And we always encourage people to ask, "Are you part of a DRP, a direct repair program
Mhm.
partnership with those insurers?" Because you learn a lot from the answer that comes out of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's to be said on the shop that's that says I work with them, and then you may have had that phone call with an adjuster that may have said that seems like a pretty interesting choice you made there, right? And I say that just because I've had those conversations, in personal experiences where they try to make me think otherwise about my decision.
Right,
But the reality is, if I made my decision because I, interviewed the shop, and I got that trust factor from them, and they told me, things that were about to happen, along the way, it starts to make me go, wow, Eric was right over there, or they really did call out exactly how it's going to happen. So it's really to ask them about the process. What is the process going to be like?
right, right.
Do I have the right to use your shop? That's a and they're gonna, obviously your shop is gonna hopefully provide you with that guidance, right? And remind you of your consumer rights, for those kind of things. But it goes to really you know just be confident in that conversation, and really I think you wanting to be more involved in your process than just saying, I'm just looking for a shop that's just going to handle it and just leave me out of it. Because the minute you leave yourself out of something, you lose complete control over the process, and really the outcome is what could be affected there.
Yeah, and that outcome, as we've shown and demonstrated on so many of our videos, is all too often super expensive because the car either has to go back to the shop and get re-repaired, or quite possibly, you're not getting the proper repairs done, and so it becomes dangerous to bring back out on the street. Dangerous for you and your
Yeah.
family and your loved ones, but dangerous also to the people on the road next to you. And so, that's absolutely, get involved in your repair. We say that every single week, and we think that's an important piece. Danny, what other things should we look for or ask?
I think it's also important, okay, obviously where the parts are coming from. Are you using original equipment parts? Eric, you mentioned, OEM, and I think that's the opportunity for that shop to really, showcase the importance of that, the use of those OEM parts there, and really, talk about, what does the paint process look like for my vehicle? um, as a consumer, these are things that we may not always, think in the top of our head, because we don't think about getting into accidents or incidents or having to repair our car. But ask them, after my repairs are done, are my safety systems going to work properly? Are my electronics going to work the way that they were intended? And think about that is, because you don't see them. If you don't see those parts, if you don't see those electronics, they're typically going to be behind something that someone's working on,
Yeah,
and it can just take one little a mistake of just forgetting to plug something in,
right.
right? And and if there's and then if a mistake happens, let's face it, we're human. Are
Sure.
you going to be able to stand behind a warranty any issues that come up with your work? I mean, do you have a warranty for me? What is your just, do you have any examples of customers that have had this repair done? You can show me what it looked like. These are all things that I think is perfectly appropriate to ask your shop, to really prove to you why they are the shop that you want to have that fix that car.
Yeah,
But the number one focus is, we'll take care of it. We'll just get it figured out with your insurance company. Don't worry about things, and just really removing you out of the process and really keeping you involved.
red
That should
flag.
be a sign of why are they not being transparent with me? Because again, there's nothing we should hide as a repair. I mean, it's their vehicle, right? So
Right.
pull back the curtains and let me see inside of it, and let me hear the phone calls, let me hear the conversations.
Yeah.
What agreements are you making on behalf of me that, again, we don't know?
Right, right, and again, this seems to be an appropriate place to encourage our viewers to find, if you don't have access to it immediately, find your policy. I'm not talking about your declarations cards. I'm talking about your multi-page policy, and read the fine print and find out, does your insurer have the right to use salvage, aftermarket, or inferior parts to save themselves a dollar? And the reason that we are not real keen on those, for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that there's no standardization with those aftermarket parts. There's no uh, testing of those aftermarket parts, safety testing. And, if you're talking about something cosmetic, it's probably not that big a deal. But if you're talking about something structural or something integral to the operation of the ADAS system or anything like that, then we're talking some serious ramifications if they get it wrong, even by a little. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so let's see if we can get one or two more questions that we can bring to mind, or at least come prepared when you need the services of a body shop.
Yeah. I think another one that you want to clear up is, obviously, how long have you been how long have you been in business and within the community for? Because here's something to consider right now, and this is something that's not happening across the country. I think it's important to find out if that shop is established for long term, or did it just and I'm not saying that new shops are issues. I'm just saying
Sure.
that you need to find out, who's going to be there for the long haul of, your warranty or your, future repair needs or anything like that.
Right.
Um, right now, there's a lot of shops that are, that have been really doing really well, that have been really successful, and they've had, great quality over the years. And unfortunately, they made that decision, the hard decision, to pass along the torch to another company out there. So I think finding out, are you here for a long haul? Are you just gonna does it seem like a new name's going to represent on the side of the building anytime soon?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Word of mouth and testimonials you can find online with Google reviews and other review sites. All of those things. Better Business Bureau is also going to help you with those.
mhm.
But longevity uh, demonstrates integrity in many
Yeah,
ways, right?
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you don't get to stay there for a long time
Yeah,
if you're doing poor quality work. All
yeah.
right. Do you have one more for us?
Last one I would say is, again, your referrals. Again, if you're bringing your Lexus in, do you work closely with my Lexus dealership or my Lucid, service team? Do you work with my, Subaru dealership? Well, quite often, do we have a streamlined process between you and them? Do they understand what what their needs and what your needs are, right? And getting
Right.
my cars will be serviced by them for any kind of repairs you don't do. Do you do all the servicing, or does the car need to be completed by the dealership, or the mechanic that you've established to complete that, right? But I think it's really important to find out who's going to be touching your car, above and beyond your, the actual collision center, right? Who else is involved if you're bringing in, outside vendors to work on your car. I think these are questions that you'd want to know about,
Yeah.
and that way it gives you a peace of mind that that there may be other people exposed to your car as well. So,
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Well, Danny, all of these are so important, and here at Nylund's, we have on occasion, we talk sometimes about taking the vehicle in because if we don't have the technology or the equipment to complete, for instance, a calibration or an alignment or something like that, we'll take your vehicle to the dealer uh,
yeah,
to get that done. And it's, we talk about that on the front end of the repair plan, and we make sure that it's written in the repair plan. And we also pass that on to the person, the people, the company that is supposed to be paying for that service, you certainly don't want an incomplete repair. And
Right.
and so knowing whose hands are touching and the quality of training and skill and expertise and equipment, we bang that drum again. I'm going to circle back to the equipment. Um, so many of the shops that we know of don't have the proper equipment to complete a repair, and then it calls into question whether or not the repair is completed properly.
Yeah.
So, man, this is all great stuff. It really is. And Danny, on behalf of Rob and our viewing audience, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. Before I let you go, though, give us some contact information, if you will, please. How can people get in touch with you and what you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean, our website, www.degweb.org, and Eric, you can put that link in that description, in the comment
You
box below,
you bet.
description box, and then again, you can go to our website right there, and then I'll also have you include the collision advice website because, again, through education and training of what we can offer to you. Believe it or not, a lot of this training is something that you get part of your certification already. So, just like I said, just throwing this out there, if you're like a Nissan certified shop, you paid for that training, so you get to participate in that training for free, part of your paid dues. So take advantage of that. And as a shop, especially, take all that training you can get from the manufacturers when offered, like Toyota, Porsche, Nissan, and all the other manufacturers have something along the line. So
Bet.
you guys have gone through, countless hours of training out there, and how many days do you guys lose technicians just for them to go and train on the next feature or the next model, right, or the next
Yeah.
operation? So,
It
you
feels
know,
like on any given week, we have at least one of our technicians in one capacity or the front office staff because they also have to be trained. The estimators, even the person who greets you at the door is it's necessary to get trained up
yeah,
properly in the particular way that the manufacturer wants the guest to be handled.
yeah,
And so, man, that's really, really good advice. I love it. And we love you for hanging out with us, Danny. Thank you so very
cheers,
much.
thank you.
Now let's raise the glass and say happy Saturday to you. We're
Happy Saturday.
so grateful for you taking the time and joining us. And for you, our very much trusted and loved viewers, we say thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. If you found any value in this at all, click that thumbs up and don't forget to share this video on your socials. Just click the link and then bring it over to Facebook or to X or to Instagram or wherever you go and fire this off because somewhere out there, somebody who needs this information. And it's far better to be an educated consumer than to go in blindly and let the insurer dictate the outcome of your repair.
I'm going to make one note, Eric, and that's also there's a bunch of consumer tips out there through the SCRS's YouTube channel.
Yes,
Before we let you go, and Eric, please put the link down there.
no
That's
problem.
going to be that's going to give you a lot of tips and tricks and questions that you may want to ask. So check out the SCRS consumer tip videos. And again, if you have any questions, always know that you have an industry here to help you and support you in any way possible.
Absolutely. The SCRS stands for Society of Collision Repair Specialists, and it's an organization that we are members of. And we encourage you to tune into their outlet, Repair Driven News, which is the uh, consumer industry news arm of SCRS. Danny, we love you guys, man. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And again, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
All right, bye bye.
All right. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next Saturday for the airing of grievances right here on this channel. And Rob will be back.